Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to my exclusive interview with DOP whisperer Scotti Phillips, who I have worked with for about 30 years. I know we don't look that old, but that's how long we've been in the business. He's the world famous, notorious gaffer of movies you might have seen, like It Too and Shazam and Slumberland and and the show The Strain, which was beautifully lit, and of course our most popular credit, Jason X. So thank you so much for being here, Scotti. I had the idea to bring you here because one of my students, who shall remain nameless, because I'm sure if I tell you who he is, you'll never bring him power to his laptop. He was listing out all the key personnel in, he's like, we make the movie. And he was like, the DOP, the director, the actors, the first AD, and the script supervisor. And I was like, whoa, you left out the gaffer and the key grip. Do you know what an omission? They usually do.
It's interesting.
People usually leave us out. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because we had what they call a core meeting yesterday, actually, for the show that I'm on. And it was myself and the director of photography, the director, who is Sarah Pauly, and myself, the key grip, and the first AD. And that was it. And sorry, our line producer, Lynn. So that was it. That's what they call the core group. And that was, it was a kind of a private 7-person meeting for the show that we have upcoming. So yeah, that's usually the core. I mean, usually I'm included in that. So it's good to know.
And I thought, okay, this person has no idea what you do. So that was my bit. I think maybe a lot of people, script supervisors have the same problem, so they should understand this problem
for sure.
But you start prepping way more than we do. When do you start prepping before a show? How long before?
It depends on the movie. The movie before this one was Slumberland that I did, and myself and the key grip had 10 weeks prep. This one I'm doing right now we're doing 5. So yeah, it all depends on the size.
Lucky if I get 4. If I'm really lucky, if I get 4, I usually get 2, and my students sometimes get 1 day.
Yeah, because I just imagine you read the script and then you show up the next day, I would think.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Can you imagine? That's a question for you, Scotti. How many times do you read the script? And when you read the script, do you talk that through with the DOP and prep?
They usually send it to me before I have to interview for the job, if I do have to interview. I normally don't, but if I do have an interview upcoming, they'll send me the script right away. It's usually the very first thing they do on my on the original email. Like, usually when they contact me, they'll say, do you want to send a script? And that'll tell them that I'm interested, or I'll say, don't bother sending me the script, don't worry about it. And so I read it usually right away, definitely before I have to interview, so I can speak intelligently during the interview. And I usually try and read it 1 week before camera, and then usually halfway through the show, like literally on the halfway point. If it's an 80-day show, I'll read it after day 40 again, just to kind of, because after a month or 2, you start to get a little hazy on what you're doing the next week and stuff like that. So usually 3 times.
It's funny because people assume that the key grip and the gaffer don't read the script.
There's no way we could, I'm sure there are gaffers and key grips that don't, but for the level of show I like doing, that you honestly couldn't do the job if you didn't know what was coming up and what you needed things for. And you have to intelligently be able to discuss things, especially when directors, producers are asking you questions about it. It's just crazy to not read the script. The whole thing's based on that.
Yes, I agree. And you're working on $200 million. I forgot to say you did Suicide Squad as well. You're doing these multi-million-dollar things, multi-$100 million things.
Yeah.
So at that level, I mean, so let's talk about what the gaffer does.
Absolutely. So basically, the major part of my job is I'm in charge of the lighting department, the overall lighting department. So depending and varying on who the director of photography is, the lighting either completely all falls on me, or it's a more collaborative thing where he has some ideas, I execute them for him. But usually at that level, it's pretty much dumped on me. Like when you're getting into those higher ones, because you got director of photographies that are so involved with their camera and their camera movement and everything like that. When they hire, say, myself, and there's one or two other guys in Toronto that are doing that level, they're hiring those guys specifically because they don't want to worry about the lighting. Like they'll tell you when they don't like something. And that was the DP that I did Suicide Squad with, and the one that I did Shazam with was the same guy. And he told me in the interview, he said, I'm not a lighting guy. And you know who I'm talking about, Daniela. You were
we love him. We love him.
In the interview, he told me he's not a lighting guy. So at that point, yeah, you're fully in charge of a look. What he did say to me is, I'll let you know when I don't like something. And I find it a lot easier to work that way, because then I'm given a little more full range, and it gets me a little more involved in it. And it, you know, and if you got a good rapport with the guy, he's gonna like pretty much what you do. Like after the first couple of days, me and Josh had worked together. We'd never met each other before Suicide Squad, but after 2 or 3 days, we knew that we could trust each other, and it goes on from there.
Great. Yes, and he keeps bringing you back, and you keep bringing him back.
Yeah, I love him. You make yourself available for those kind of people, right? So
exactly. That's how I am, and that's how we are with directors. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so at any one time, like you've got like this massive truck full of gear, and I can only imagine like how much gear you're technically like responsible for.
Yeah. It can be overwhelming. One of my top skills is hiring. I've always said that's one of my top skills. So I have quite a team of people, and their jobs are knowing where all that gear is and taking care of that. And like, depending again on the size of the show, yeah, there's millions and millions of dollars worth of gear at any given time. And there's a couple guys that's all their responsibility is to track it, where it is, where it's going out, you know, what building it's going on, what street corner it's going on. And they're in charge of consolidating all that stuff. So,
yeah, oh my God. I mean, you say guys, but you also hire, you're one of the few gaffers that actually hires women, but
I actually prefer it. This might be edited out. It might not, but I like to speak straight from the heart when it comes to that. I find with the new millennial generation that the women's work ethic is 10 times what the guys' millennial work ethic is. It's a work ethic thing. And I don't know, I honestly don't know what it is or care what it is, but I find the millennial women are extremely hardworking, whereas the guys seem to wait to be told what to do. The initiative isn't there, right? So that's why I do have women on my crew. Like my board operator her name's Desiree, and she's great. She's the best in the city. Doesn't matter, women, men, alien, whatever. She is the best in the city. Like it's not even close. And but when it comes to that sort of generation, I've preferred to have the women on my crew, at least one, if not two. It's hard to generally find women that are in that lighting area. There's only like a handful in Toronto. So, but yeah, their work ethic is way above.
I have a theory on that. It's because we women are finally being given those kinds of opportunities. So it's like we got something to prove. I see that with my male students of that age, actually, because men are now finally allowed to be script supervisors more.
Yeah, that's true too. I never thought of it that way as well. Like in your sense, like I do see more men doing it now. Like it's just not Doug Rothstein only. So it's good. It's branching out that way.
Well, you know why, right? Because now script supervisors can become directors. As soon as that happened, they all raced over.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. No, I know.
But so how many people on your team would you have on like a Suicide Squad?
Oh, on that particular show, what basically happens is I have two parallel crews. I have what's called a rigging crew, and then I have my shooting crew. and I'm in charge of all of them. So usually on my shooting crew on that particular show, it would have been myself plus 12. And then my rigging crew would have been about 18, I would think. So it's about 30. I'd say 30 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you've got to manage 30 people with some help. Is best, but what's the new term? Is best boys not the term anymore, is it?
I don't know where they are with that now. I don't even know what my term is. Apparently Gaffer is not the term, but so I was going by chief lighting technician. I've always credited myself that way. And apparently that's bad too. Apparently that's bad
too.
So they've changed that.
I know why. It doesn't feel like it encapsulates the creativity of your position. That's why I think chief lighting technician doesn't work. Gaffer, yeah, I don't know what the origin of the word gaffer is, but it kind of sounds like an insult.
Yeah, I know. I never liked the word gaffer, so I always put chief lighting technician on my when they ask for my credit on the deal memo and stuff like that. But now they've changed it to key lighting technician, which just sounds like even less. So I don't know. I know Best
DOP whisper.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. And it doesn't really, whatever the credit is, it doesn't, change the pay rate. So it doesn't really matter to me what they call me.
Which, by the way, if people don't know, Scotti makes $1 million a picture. Just in case you want to.
That's my flat rate. That's everything included, though. Like there's a lot included in that. I have a truck. And I have, lots of stuff. So. Do
you have a truck of your own for reals?
Yeah, I have a 48-foot trailer. The lighting truck is mine. And then, and all the carts and all the little bits and pieces are all mine. Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's stuff you accumulate. Me and Rico both have our own lighting trailers. There's maybe about 8 to 10 guys that have their own trucks, and me and Rico are 2 of them anyway. Rico being my key grip. For those that don't know.
Yeah, for those who don't know. I mean, in our world, you guys are famous, but these guys might not know in Atlanta.
No, I understand completely. No, that's great.
So how does your work differ from when you do? I know you don't really do TV anymore, but if you can remember back to the days when you did.
Absolutely.
How does your work differ?
I did years and years of television, and I haven't since, I guess the last series I did was 2015 or something like that. But the difference was television was more of just cranking it out, almost like a production line. Like every episode was there's different episodes and different directors, but it was basically always the same process and cranking it out as fast as you can. Whereas, the creativity starts to go by the wayside because there's not a lot of time for that. Right. And even in the script supervision era of it, that if there's problems with the continuity and stuff like that in TV, they're saying, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. And, they'll move on. They just don't have time for things that are creatively right and wrong. So I like the process of the features just because of that. Like you got a lot of people, their mindset is different too. Like you're creating something large and you're making a big product that's, is going to be seen by quite a few people. Right. And like the pressure of doing, say, an It Chapter 2 after the success of the first It and stuff like that. Or a movie like Shazam that the last time it was done was back in like the 70s. And now you're making a big feature in today. There's a lot of pressure in that sense. And, or working on a DC show like Suicide Squad. There's always that pressure of, okay, it's big. The audience is going to be big. Everything has to be bigger. The lighting has to be bigger. The look has to be bigger. And I prefer that. Like I prefer that a lot because I get really, really bored on television shows. It just, get very, very bored. Yeah.
So you like that pressure and you like that creativity. You always look extremely calm on set, by the way.
Well, yeah, it's all I've done since I was 19 years old. So it's at a point now where it's just basically like breathing. I've never done anything else since then. So I just find it now it's literally like walking or riding a bike. It's the bigger the show, all it is there's a lot of pressure. There's more lights, but there's more guys. And like I said, one of my top skills is hiring. And I always surround myself with the best people, right? So that just having that confidence of who you have on your crew is, you know, nothing. They can't throw anything at you that you can't execute, right? So that's why I'm normally very calm. That, and I drink a lot of Red Bull, so it's
you do drink a lot of Red Bull. I forgot about that. So since you were 19, yeah, there you go. This is not a paid promotion, by the way. Since you were 19, so did you always know you wanted to be a chief lighting technician?
No, not really. I went to film school. Like, I'm one of the few that did. So when I was in film school, I was more like, the first thing they ask you in first year is, who here wants to direct? And you see everybody's hands go up, right? And mine didn't, because I wanted to be a cameraman. I wanted to shoot, right? So I ended up shooting a lot of the projects that, because everybody wanted to direct and nobody wanted to learn what those camera things do, right? So that I was the one that shot everything. So that's what I wanted to do in film school. I wasn't really interested in the directing side. I was more in the technical side of it, and how to get the look, how to create the look. It was more my focus. So that's all I ever really wanted to do. Yeah, from that young. Yeah.
So, because you are an award-winning cinematographer, by the way, I forgot to say that in your intro. Is that something you would still entertain doing?
I would have. You know, my life took an interesting turn, because like, I would have wanted to be a director of photography fairly early. But when I first started working, I was basically a best boy right away. I didn't do many days as an electric. I did like one show as an electric, then I became a best boy pretty quick. So I was like 20 years old. And that would have been the point to say, okay, I want to go down the camera route and I want to go the director of photography route. But I had just met the woman that I was going to get married to. And so we got a house, we got married, and I was making such good money doing what I was doing. I couldn't, because that step back now is, you're almost saying I'm going to be unemployed while I try and start this whole other career.
That's me right now, being a writer at 52.
No, it's true. And I get guys that come up, and the director of photography say it every time they come up. They go, why aren't you shooting? Why aren't you DPing? And I basically tell them, look, I don't want to take a pay cut. And that it kind of slaps them in the face. But where I've gotten to the level I've gotten doing what I'm doing, to now call myself a director of photography with the thousands of unemployed Canadian director of photographies that there is would be a huge, huge step back. It doesn't sound like a step back, but you go to the bottom of the line now as a DOP, where I've made it to where I am as a gaffer. It just financially wouldn't make any sense at all.
I mean, I understand. I don't have kids or anything like that, so it doesn't, no big whoop if I start.
And I did that very young. I had 2 kids when I was early 20s and got married in my early 20s and all that. So yeah, I had to keep making money. I couldn't just say I'm a DOP now.
But this is the thing. We all know you can do it. So
it seems to be the general consensus. I've shot like short films and stuff like that for my friends, and I love doing it. I do it for free because I just enjoy doing it for them, and so it's always fun. But to actually call myself that, and to try and get a music video here, or try and get that second unit on that TV show, it just doesn't interest me to scramble right now at my age. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I understand. You get the job satisfaction, because you do have. Listen, I walk onto a set and I know if you've lit it, because I'm like, oh, there's that beautiful shaft. You're known for your beautiful shaft. But
yes,
it's true. I'm like, oh, Scotti lit the set. So obviously you make your mark on the sets you light. Anyway, it's creative, and I know you have to adapt to different DOPs, etc. But you're still doing it. You're still doing it. So you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the money and you've got the ability.
No, absolutely, to do it. It's great. It's good. Yeah.
What do you think are the qualities of a great gaffer? Like, people ask me this all the time about script, and I would not know what to say about a gaffer. What do you think?
You definitely have to have a leadership quality in you, because you're the one that's going to be talking on the walkie channel almost the whole day. And it's like your verbal abilities on how you deal with a multitude of personalities. You have to be able to do that. You have to adapt to hundreds of different personalities. Like you see the sets that me and you work on, D, there's, you know, the crew's usually over 100 people. So, you know, there's going to be some assholes and there's going to be some real bitches, and that's just the way it is. But you've got to adapt to each person's, you know, personality, and because you all have to get along. If there's any sort of friction on a film set, it can really screw everything up. So I would say leadership and the ability to get along with people, the ability to communicate your idea is huge, because sometimes you're talking to guys that are a mile away, and all you have is a walkie-talkie, and you can't see the person, they can't see you, and you've got to try and direct them into lighting a building that's kilometers away from you. So your communication skills have to be really good as well. Yeah, so there's
with the DOP, the communication with, sorry, DOPs, with the egos of some DOPs.
No, very true. Yeah, and it varies from DOP to DOP, because they all, you know, they all have a different ego, as everybody does. Like you guys got to deal with directors, so that's even. And
hey, you tolerated broader. Me for 30 years, so.
No, exactly. Yeah, because at 30, I started at 6 years old, because I'm 36 now, so that makes sense. Yeah, 30 years. Oh my God.
Are you? I think you're younger than me, but anyway, I mean, like, I know you're not.
I'm not 50 yet. I know, so.
Oh, little baby! Oh my God. Oh, that's great. Okay, so yeah, there's that, and how much? I saw this. I was reading this interview with a gaffer today. Sorry, with a DOP today, who said he gets offended when gaffers say, just tell me how you want it to look, and then I'll figure it out with the lighting. And he said, how I want it to look is I want a 10K over there.
Yeah, no, it's true. And that's again, you're adapting to a DOP, because there's some DOPs that literally want certain fixtures and certain this and that. It's a broad range of DOPs. The one DOP that I worked with who was very, very specific, and it was on a pretty big budget movie, was a gentleman named Amir Mokri. And yeah, people told me he was going to kill me, and I'd be surprised if I finished the show. I got along great with him, because all it was is he's extremely specific. And so you just got to know that. And at the end of the day, he is the boss. So if he wants to be extremely specific and say, I need this light and that light there, then that's what you do. You know, you put your ego aside for that show. You know, it's not.
Listen, I'm with you. Like, people warn me about directors, and then I go into the meeting, and the director's like, I'm a screamer. Don't take it personally. And I'm like, I love that, because the fact that they're telling you in advance, or the fact that you know that, it's so easy then, because you're like, okay, I'm not going to take anything personally. Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah. With what you guys do as well with script supervising, you're going to get directors that are completely opposite ends of the personality spectrum, and you just have to adapt to that. That's what our business is based on. Like, and you know, the thing when I was doing television, okay, you got the same crew for a couple of years, so you get close and you kind of get to know each other. But I do like the excitement of different people all the time and stuff like that, because I like doing the adapting and doing different styles and stuff. And it actually helps me, say, working with a guy like Josh, because my ideas and the way I go about things are usually pretty insane. And so Josh has the other side of the spectrum where they're a little duller, right? So we can kind of meet in the middle, because if I'm left completely unsupervised, you're going to get like a massively expensive Dick Tracy look all the time, like with just ridiculous amount of colors, and just it costs way too much, and I'm way over budget. So I need that kind of that bring down.
But you're not like, you've never been a slow gaffer. You've never been a
no. I always say to DP, if you see me personally having to work on the set, like having to do stuff, then I didn't do my job properly in prep. And my riggers didn't do the job properly. So I shouldn't have to do a lot on the day. Personally, myself, my guys do, they do quite a bit, but yeah, if you're prepared and you know how to execute things properly, you shouldn't have to look busy. You know, you shouldn't, yeah, should never seem like you're under pressure.
There was a certain second AD who wanted to be here, and I told him to watch it later. And he said something that I never considered. He said, you know, a gaffer, the gaffers, we rely on the key grip and the gaffer to tell us how long something will take. The first AD is nothing without that.
No, that's true. Yeah. You have to be, and you can't be too far off either, because the traveling the cast to set, all that is based on mine and the key grip's prediction on how long something's going to take. They ask us that hundreds of times a day. How long is this going to take? How long is this going to take? And when you're, you know, with the newer gaffers, once they start feeling that pressure, if they crack, you know, it can turn into chaos pretty quick, because you just got to know that AD's just doing his job. That's all he's doing. And, you know, if you take it personally that they're asking you that 20 times a day, you're just going to really wind yourself up. Like, you're going to start to really feel it bad. And you just got to know that's their job, and it's your job to know how long things are going to take. You know?
And it's a huge part of making the day and making the movie. So that's why, like, how can you not be core crew? Like, we can't even.
No, because even on our meeting yesterday, we're 2 weeks before camera, and I already have the production manager and AD asking me, how long do you think it'll take on day 34 when we do that move to the house for the night exterior? And you got to answer those questions, right? Like, those are questions you have to know the answers to, because they're planning their days and they're planning the execution of their film based on those estimates, right? And so I always overestimate, and then I come in way faster, right? So that's what I do. It's always easier to give yourself some buffer, you know.
And they believe everything you say, so that's great.
It is interesting. They do believe me. I don't know why, but they do. It's great.
I think it might have something to do with the 30 years. Oh, so how is your work? How does your workflow? I understand the job of the key grip even less than your job. So, like, how does that workflow go all day long?
Well, and over here in North America, our system's different from Europe. In Europe, the gaffer runs the whole thing, and there is a grip department, but the gaffer's in charge of everything lighting. Here, it's great because we're actually equals, and the key grip, the thing is, he has to deal with all the camera stuff as well, like the platforms and the cranes, and anytime the camera has to move or be set, it's all the grips, and it's all the key grip that's in charge of that, on how it's going to get there. And what they do, though, as far as lighting wise, is me and my guys we cable it all, we set up the lights, we shine the lights, they shape the lights. So they'll soften it, they'll cut it off certain areas of the set, darken, take light away. That's what, basically, in a nutshell, I give the light and then Rico takes it away. And so to shape it, basically, in a nutshell, that's about it.
So Rico's partly responsible for your shafts, for your signature,
No,
lighting.
that's all me. That's all me. No, he is.
Yeah,
it's
my
great
God,
to work with him.
Yeah, I mean, God. How long have you guys been working together?
4 years now. Me and Rico, it's really weird. We never worked with each other till like 4 years ago. We always were close to working with each other, and he was trying to tell me to get out of television and come do this next show. But I was so comfortable there. And again, it was a money thing. I was making so much money in television. Oh, do I take that jump where I go start doing features? And but it got to the point where I knew if I just started doing features, I'd be fine, and I'd be finding work. So I just said goodbye to television at that point. So it's been about 4 years, which it's too bad it took that long, because he is the best, and it's not even close. And we work so well together that that could have been the last 20 years of my life if I wouldn't have been so silly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. You know, they call you guys the Holy Trinity, you, Rico, and Angelo,
And Angelo,
the
the camera operator, Angelo. Yeah. No, I know. Yeah. I remember it. Well, PM, you know, we get emails that say that, look, we're looking to hire the Holy Trinity and all this stuff. And I'm like, what the hell's that? And Rico goes, oh yeah, that's what we are now. You didn't hear it? Oh shit. Yeah, they're trying to get all.
And I went, what am I, chopped liver? No. That's why I left the business. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
And so I think you kind of answered this, but what do you think the hardest part about what you do is?
Ooh, again, I'll go right back to the personalities we deal with. Is the hardest part is especially for me, because I'm a redhead, is holding my temper. And I've gotten really good at it. Is holding my temper, because I'm not good with ignorance or anything like that, right? So that's really the hardest part, because we deal with so many different people every day. And you know, I've got to deal with every department. Mostly my best boy does, but I have to deal with the people around the camera, and it's not always, as you know, D, it's not always the greatest people around the camera at all times. That's why I prefer being in the Holy Trinity, because then at least I've got my key grip and my operator that I know are awesome. And so you got friends there around the camera. But yeah, I would say the hardest part is the pressure isn't quite as bad as it once was, because like I said, I find it easy now. So I'd say just the holding the temper and realizing that there's other people there that don't have the same experience, and you just got to know that. And I do it now by hiring those people, so that when they're learning my style and, you know, and how I like to work, which is great. So I'm going to have a girl on this show in 2 weeks who just got her membership 5 days ago. So she was a permit, and I went and told the president of my local, look, I need this girl tested now, because I want to hire her. And yeah, so she trade tested, she passed. So I'm going to have her. I just like that. I like having at least 1 to 2 people that are kind of new. And then I have my best boy and Jenny Op that have been with me since 1993. Oh God. And
wow.
So I've got experienced guys, and then I like getting a couple new people, and then I like that window of people that have been doing it for like 5 to 10 years. So I get 2 from there, 2 new people, and then I already have a bunch of experience around me. So it's a nice, you know,
I love that too. This is what I love about, I mean, we don't have a crew, although I got to train Michaela, who's one of my students on set on the last feature, and I loved that. But what I love about the new world of filmmaking, because let's talk about that, because we have seen some shit. Things have changed in 30 years. What I personally love, and I hear other experienced film techs actually complain about this, is that you can walk onto a set and there are a whole rainbow of experiences. There's brand new people right off the street, and then there's the veterans that are sometimes grizzled, and then there's everything in between. And I freaking love that. I think that's exciting about
it's awesome. I don't see why people would have a problem with that. I know some of the older guys or senior guys have a problem with it, that there's these new people, but it's always going to be like that. Like, you know, it's just always going to be. I love it personally, because I like when they ask me questions that I could hear myself asking when I was 21 and 22, right?
Aww.
And I love that, because it's like now I'm answering it for them, and they're learning. And you know, that the first time I had this other girl that was working with me, her very first day, pretty much in IA, she'd done a couple small days on a TV show, but one of her very first days was on Suicide Squad, which was a gigantic backlot set. Like, just, it's actually the set that's in the picture you had for this thing of me standing in the middle of Chaos Road there.
1968, yeah.
Yeah, her first day was on that set, so you could just see the amazement and the, you know, and the questions and stuff that she has, right? And I love that. Like, you can really tell the people that are going to last in the industry by how they are their first month or 2 in the industry. you know, if they're asking questions and they want to learn and they're getting a position on a set to learn, because that's one of the hardest things to learn on a film set is where to stand. It sounds dumb, but where to stand, where you can actually pay attention but not be in the way. It's a fine line. So she was good at that. And so she lasted, and she will.
I remember now, that took me a while. That took me a couple of weeks to figure out, because the thing I know the least about is lighting.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It's hard to know where to stand.
I feel like you were one of the people who said, you're in the key light.
Yeah, it was. I probably did let you know that for sure. Yeah.
Do you have, before we open it up to questions, do you have, I always ask people this, do you have any good war stories where like something was like exploding on set and you were able to like fix it?
Exploding on set and able to fix it. Oh my God, I'm sure there's tons of those.
I know, right?
Yes. One of the stories, it's not even my department, but one that was really hit close to home and really scared me was we were doing a stunt. You know, the whole scene was 15 blocks of lighting. Like, it was just ridiculous. It was this huge car chase. And so after we'd done all the major stuff for 3-4 days, we started picking away at little bits of stunts. And the whole thing was just a car racing in, and it has to stop on a dime before it hits another car. So what they do when they do that is they run aircraft cables so that when the aircraft cable reaches its end, the car stops. On this particular thing, we had 4 or 5 cameras set up, and one camera was set up inside the vestibule of a Tim Hortons. So there was the door that faces Yonge, then you go in about 8 feet, and then you go in the actual Tim Hortons. So they were in the vestibule there. Vestibule was only about 5.5, 6 feet wide. So the cable snapped when the car was supposed to stop. The cable snapped, the car reared off, went straight at the Tim Hortons and smashed into that vestibule. So in that vestibule was a camera system that I've worked with for years and years and years. And beside him was a good friend of mine named Waxy. And they were in that vestibule. And if the vestibule would have been, say, 6 inches to a foot wider, they'd be dead right now. Like, that car was screaming at them. And it hit. And it was rigged with propane poppers that were supposed to explode when the car came to its stop. So when it hit, nothing exploded, but all you could hear was the effects guys saying, "Don't move, don't move, don't move." And Waxy and Joe, who had backed up and were 2 feet away now as they're pinned against the entrance of Tim Hortons, they didn't move because they had to disable the propane that was in the car before anybody could move. So they ran in to do that. And that was the closest I saw to somebody getting killed on the set.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We asked him about that. It was a scary moment. It was him and Waxy in this little vestibule, and they had no escape route, right? Which usually when you're doing stunts, especially with camera guys, they always have an escape route. Like, everybody has an escape route in case something goes wrong. In this particular camera setup, they didn't have anywhere to go. So when the car came, it just pinned. And yeah, luckily the vestibule was, tight enough that the car couldn't go all the way in. So it was good.
Jesus Christ. My worst fear on set was always, it's why I think I avoid a lot of stunt shows. I was like, I do comedy, right? Because my worst fear is those cables snapping, because you can be decapitated. Like, someone could
quickly. Very quickly, yeah.
Well, that's not a lighting story. It's a freaking.
No, I know.
It is a good reminder of how, like, our workplace is so intensely, like, anything can happen at any time.
Yeah. I haven't had too many things go wrong electrically. So it hasn't really been a problem in my department. I can't think of too many big war stories that involve myself, but there's always something, at least once a show, that happens. It's usually the script supervisor, though, so it's not that big.
Like, no power to the laptop, and we have to stop everything. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So I don't know if people have questions for Scotti, but I will open it up to the floor if anyone does have questions for Scotti. You can either use the chat or unmute yourself and ask him a question. It's very rare that you'll get to be this up close and personal with a veteran gaffer. By the way, I do want to say that I think a huge part of your survival and mine in this business has been our sense of humor. That I think that's probably how you. I didn't know you had a temper. I just knew you had a sense of humor.
Yeah, no, it's a big part of every day. Like if you can smile at the end of the day, because you know what we're doing is a great job. At the end, no matter how much we complain about it, we're not in a cubicle under fluorescent lights for 8 hours a day, and just like, you know, we do have a pretty interesting job. So that's what I love about working with Rico. Rico's been doing it way longer than I have and has more experience than I do. You know, I think he worked with Moses and Jesus Christ. But, and that's what I like about working with him is he still loves it every day. You can see the excitement in him when he's doing these insane camera rigs or these insane crane moves. You could just see he's like a little kid. It's like, you know, a little kid who's like, you know, mid-50s with dreads, but still, it's nice to see the excitement in him, right? And that's why I think we get along well.
You didn't do XXX3 with us, did you?
No, I didn't. I was asked to do the Dominican part of it.
That was the hardest.
Yeah, I was on the strain at the time, and I couldn't go down to do that. I couldn't get out of the show I was in.
I'm sure Rico told you the story, but they were shooting in the ocean. I was on the beach. There's that famous picture of my laptop on the beach. Yeah. Saying this is my office, but like Rico and Angelo, the other part of the Holy Trinity, and everyone, they were all in the friggin' water, and the camera flew out of Angelo's hands, and Rico never let go of the rig. He was like diving under the ocean with it. We were like, what is going to happen to Rico? But he saved that camera.
He'll save the camera before himself. He will.
Yeah.
That's who he is. Yeah.
And that's what a key grip is supposed to do, but no one would do that.
No, that's the key grip. That's exactly.
Sally, do you have a question?
No.
oh wait, people have raised hands. I never noticed that.
I just really enjoyed this. And thank you.
It's shocking.
Same here.
I didn't think anybody would really enjoy talking to the Gaffer, so that's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
No, and I have to say, as a theater director, like my favorite person on the whole team is the lighting designer and lighting, because they are the one that makes the magic happen, especially on stage, because it shapes the whole space. And in a good film, it does too.
Oh, absolutely. It could be a completely different film depending on how you light it, for sure. Yeah. No, that's great that you noticed.
Yeah.
Lighting tells the story, really. We didn't talk about that, but really it does. Lighting tells a story.
It can, for sure. Yeah. You can do somber, but we did a gothic horror look on the string. And a lot of it was, you know, me working with the production designer and the wardrobe people, especially as well, with what colors they were going to use and, you know, what colors certain horses were going to be and everything. And once you get it all together and you can get that look, I love it when something just looks like a gothic horror film, right? And it's great when you have same people. Yeah.
That is the look I associate with you, actually, now that you use those adjectives. Sometimes I'll ask a director, what is your visual style? And they can't articulate it like you just did. Jing, what was your question? I see you have your hand raised.
Okay. Yeah, it's somewhat spin off of you guys were talking about it, but I guess I'm just curious, beside the creative aspect of a script, I'm just curious, Scotti, what do you look for when you first read the script and then revisit it? How do you process it from like a gaffer's POV, not just the creative, but also the technical side? I'm just curious on that part.
Yeah, from my own point of view, yeah. When I'm reading the script, it has to flow, and what I can sometimes immediately do is I get a color per scene, and I learned this actually. Not learned it, but it really got pounded into my head by working with Guillermo del Toro. And what was really cool, I had read the script. It was for the pilot for a TV series called The String. And I'd read it and I had visualized certain things as it was going on and what colors. That's usually what's going through my head because I'm a little weird that way, is colors constantly. And so I sat down with Guillermo and he wanted it to be pretty quick. So I said, well, listen, sir, I'm going to go through certain scenes and you just tell me what color's in your mind. And he knew as I was going through scenes, I could have gone out of order. I didn't even have to tell him the number of the scene. I could have read one little line of that scene. He knew what color each scene was going to be. And so it made my job quite easy because of everything I had thought. There were certain ones where I was thinking, oh, it's probably a gold with some red in the background. And no, in his mind, it was blue. And so you're not going to find too many directors that are like that are that visual, that they know the whole color of their movie, every aspect of their movie, way years before they shoot it. And so it was an eye-opening little meeting for me. It was only about 15 minutes long, but we were able to go through that whole script and just almost pick a color scene by scene. And it made my job really easy. But so since then, that's a lot of what I think when I'm reading the script, is how it flows basically from scene to scene and how I do get colors in my mind as I'm reading. That's just a natural thing at this point. I don't try to think, what color would this be? It just naturally goes in there. So that's,
you know what's interesting? We actually have a whole thing in my directing program. And so I'm sad that none of my directors are here, like none of the film directing students I have, but we actually talk about the color palette of the movie, and they think through it, because that's like old school. That's how we had to think in film. It's all part of the storytelling. It's so we actually do that. So I'm so excited to hear you say that, because I had completely forgotten about that's in the program.
Well, it's very old school, because when we shot on film, you had to have the right colors and you had to gel your lights with the right colors because it was getting processed and you weren't seeing it for a day. So you've already shot it and you're not seeing what you shot till the next day. So you got to know what you're doing, and you got to be very specific. Nowadays, because we shoot on digital, our monitors are set up and we're seeing exactly what it's going to look like. And then the other little guy beside us, the DIT, could tweak it to make it whatever that on film, you didn't have that luxury. The monitors were garbage. They never were showing you what you were putting on celluloid. So you had to know your color palette really well and how that light was going to affect that red dress with that blue dress in the background and with this green plant in the foreground. Like, you had to know, your intensities on all those and how they were going to come out on celluloid.
I did want to clarify that. So what's Scotti, you guys know what the DIT is from the program, but what I didn't say at the beginning, on the bigger sets, because I know this doesn't necessarily happen on non-union things, but the DOP, the chief lighting technician and the DIT are basically all together, and they're talking all day long. Yeah.
We're usually at our own monitors. We're usually at the DIT monitor.
Yeah. And the DIT can do a whole lot. And like, if there's any, if it's a new Gaffer or DOP, the DIT can basically, if they're a seasoned DIT, can say, this is what we can do in post. It's fascinating.
They're invaluable nowadays. A solid DIT is invaluable. Me and Checo, we've both, every time we've worked together, which is only twice, we've done 2 big shows. We've been an American cinematographer. Like, we've both been published in the magazine. And the first time they wanted to interview us or interview him, he said, look, I got an interview with American cinematographer this Sunday. It was on the weekend. And he goes, you're coming, right? I said, I'm like, what do you mean I'm coming? It's on the weekend. He goes, yeah. And if you have any drawings of anything, we did bring it. So I brought my whole drawing binder. Like, I have drawings of every setup, right? Usually every show, I have them, every setup pretty much drawn out. And oh
my God, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I got it. They're all stacked up over here. I could go get them. Kind of boring. Desiree does them up for me. Yeah, Desiree does drawings for me, so I can. So I've got the whole setup, right? And so
I have seen Desiree do. Okay, all right. So you've got all your work documented like a stage manager would.
Yeah, I still work very old school drawings, and then she computerizes it for me. So when I get a set or I get a blueprint of a set, the big blueprint, I still do it in pencil and highlighter. I still do that to this day. And I find it much more organic for myself to work that way, to draw it with my hand on the paper and then give them that, what looks like a 5-year-old did, give it to my rigging gaffer and my board operator, and they computerize it and give it back to me. And so they give it back to me with numbers. So every light is it's number 302. That light over there is 614. So that when I'm calling it out, it's all right there in front of me. But the drawing that I gave them is all highlighter, pencil, and scribbles, right? So they
so
translate.
You get my scribbles. I'm very much like that with my scribbles on the page.
I've noticed that with you. You write stuff down. A lot of script supervisors don't write stuff down anymore, right? So I have to, because I
have to too. My brain. Yeah, me too.
I have to feel that I'm writing that. I'm putting that light right there on the paper, right? I trying to do it on the computer. I know how to do the SketchUp, and I've tried it, and it's just too mechanical for me, and it's just not me, right? So.
Oh my God, Darren just logged in from the island of Maui. Hold on, I'm just going to.
Oh wow, rough life.
Aloha.
Lisa has her hand up. Do you have a question for Scotti, Lisa?
Yeah, sorry, Lisa.
This has been very informative. I love the gaffers usually, even though I have no clue what they do most of the time. But I'm always friends with the gaffers, seems like. No, are the LEDs coming more into play now?
It's almost exclusive, yeah.
Because
almost exclusively LED, almost, yeah.
Yeah, we have some on our set that I guess they're really big lights, and of course I don't know the names of those. They just seem very hot and bright, and that's why I was wondering if they've changed that at all. So
the one thing with LED, they started to come in more around 2012, but now it's almost all of that except for the big bright ones. They're still not making an LED that can compete with the bigger, brighter lights. They don't have one yet that does what those lights do. So those will be around probably for another, I'd say 3-4 years until it's completely all LED.
Wow. Have you ever worked with a carbon arc light?
Very, very early in the 90s.
Oh my God.
It was on a commercial with a DOP that back then he would only use carbon arc. So it came up. That's all he would use. So that was, yeah. And they'd already been, we had to dust them off even back then because they were so old. And this was the 90s where we're like, we got HMIs now, sir. But no, you had to use carbon arc. And they are beautiful. There's some scenes shot on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that they used them on just for that to get that look, that authentic, because it's a quality of light that's really, really hard to replicate. So they actually used carbon arcs on a few of the scenes on that.
That was going to be like a total joke about how old we are, but you actually have used carbon arc. That's
amazing. Way long time ago. And yeah, they had already gone out of, like I said, I'm 36. So I was like 3, I think, when we used them.
You see the lighting effect in my background? That's the lightning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You see the
it's thunderstorming where I am too. So.
And I just saw, and you can see it outside your window too. My question, have you ever done a black and white film?
No, I did in film school. I shot a couple films exclusively on black and white. Because and when I do photography nowadays, even I dump it all to black and white because I just like that look. I like the way it looks. But actual filming, I did a music video that was black and white for Canadian actor Paul Gross, and but no, not really, not lately. That's for sure.
If you had, before we go, one piece of advice can you give a piece of advice for script supervisors from the gaffer's point of view, and then for a new gaffer?
For a script supervisor, wow. If let me think here. The script supervisor generally just needs power from me, usually. But I I go to the script supervisor a lot, and I don't know if you guys would do it. I know Dee does it, and some of the better ones do it, like Shane and stuff like that. They'll actually make lighting notes on their script as they're going along. And these are notes that, you know, that I don't take. I don't take notes as I'm working, but I know I can go back to certain script supervisors like that, and they'll say, oh, that scene, yeah, it's right here. And they'll even have when the lightning hit. You were just talking about lightning. When certain lightning hits on certain dialogue and stuff like that, and you have to go back to that same scene next month, I can go back and say, what word did that lightning hit on? And stuff like that. Like, the best script supervisors have all that information. Like, they really do. And that's when it can become invaluable. And then at the same point, my note for a new gaffer would be to know that those people help you, right? So you need to know, you need to know that everybody there, eventually you will need something off that person, whether it be locations, transport, craft service, script supervisor, every single person on that set. Maybe not on that show, maybe on the next show, maybe on the next show. You're eventually going to need something from them as a new gaffer. And so that's where coming to treat everybody with respect, no matter what their level on the show is very, very important, because you could be working for that guy pushing the broom tomorrow. You never know in the film industry, right? So that would be my advice for a new gaffer, is you're not as important as you think you are. Like, everybody there is just as important. And that would be my advice.
That is the best way to end this. I love it. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Scotti. I look forward to working with you on Sunday. That's probably my last day ever in Toronto. So that may be our last day ever on set. So, I may shed a tiny little tear.
Well, it's good you'll be doing it with me then. That's great.
Yeah. It'll be a good rounding out of the cycle of life. Anyway. Bye, everyone.